The following program is sponsored by Awesome Nossum Real Estate and Dan Keller. This is Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller, mortgage expert with New American Funding. For the next hour, you'll learn impactful insider information as Christian and Dan teach about the ins and outs of Seattle's real estate market. Now, here's Christian and Dan.
Hello. Good afternoon and happy Monday, everybody.
Happy Monday. It's my favorite day of the week.
Only because you get to hear me talk.
Well, get to hang out with you. Every Monday.
3
o'clock.
3 o'clock, 3 to 4.
What people don't realize is our broadcast starts so much earlier than 3 o'clock. I spend the whole entire day with you.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, every Monday we're pretty much hanging out.
Every single Monday. So I'm Dan Keller, mortgage advisor at New American Funding, and my co-host.
I am Christian Nossum, real estate agent to the stars. No, I'm just joking.
You actually are.
No.
You're a star.
I am a star.
You're a star in Seattle.
My mom tells me I'm special, so that's all I have to worry about.
All that matters.
Mm-hmm.
One person has to feel that way.
In me.
Yep, that's it. Well, you know what? Man, I'm excited for today's show again. We get to follow up with your mentor.
Yes.
Someone very special.
Mr. Bob Wilson, the owner of Wilson Realty Exchange, which is actually where I am a licensed broker. And he is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
He knows his stuff. I mean, he started off in 1969. He's been doing it ever since, been in real estate ever since. He set up his plan from the get-go of this is where I want to be when I am done, or this is where I want to be, maybe not where I'm done, but this is how I want to end my working career, I guess. Yeah. And then he went backwards and figured out, all right, well, these are all the things I need to do to get there, and a lot of it involved buying real estate, holding on to it, and renting it out. And there were some other things in between there, flipping some and doing some stuff like that, I'm sure. But I mean, he's a smart guy. So we're gonna dive back into that process and that plan that he did, and how we can help people get to that point as well.
Yeah, it kind of plays into our show, Seattle Real Estate Radio. You know, we try to bring on guests that will enhance the home ownership experience. But what we've been, what we've been doing lately, and what we're going to continue to do through the remainder of this year, is to bring in valuable resources that not only enhance, but help you make some money. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So I'm a mortgage lender, and I get paid to sell, originate, and fund mortgages, period. Yep. Okay? You do the same in real estate. That's our job. That's how we make money, and we support our families, and we build our future that way.
Exactly.
Bob has built a career, and at this point, he's financially free because of the path that he chose to earning an income, and that was through owning real estate.
Exactly.
And so it's just
funny little side note. Bob, this is not something he's told me. This is heard it through the grapevine, so through my office and everybody that works there. He's retired before.
Nice.
And he can't stay retired.
He can't do it.
No,
I can see that.
Yeah, he did it, and then he went, well, what am I doing? What do I do now? This is boring. And he had to come back.
Yeah.
And that was early. That was like early 30s that he retired.
He pulled a Michael Jordan.
Exactly.
But he actually came back.
But he actually came back.
For another 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's still going.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, here's the thing. I wanted to kind of discuss this. First off, if you're listening, after today's show, go to seattlerealestateradio.com and listen to the first episode that we had, last week's episode with Bob.
Exactly.
Sit down, maybe have a notepad. You're going to want to take some notes. I am going to warn you in advance. The show went... It's slower. It's not just, we did not get off and get tactical right away. What we wanted to do is it was on purpose, totally on purpose. We wanted you to understand who Bob was and how Bob got to where he's at now. So we had to build a story and tell his story to our listeners. At the end, we got very tactical. Today, we're going to get more tactical.
Yep.
on how to actually do this, what you need to do next, and give you a lot more information. But
and there's going to be some theory and theoretical in there as well, because obviously we're not sitting face to face with you, the listener, going over your specific situation, which we are offering to do that. So like I said at the end of the last show, if you are thinking that you need a plan, which guess what? Everyone does need a plan. But if you're thinking you finally want to take that step and you know, start your plan, start figuring out what the heck it is, then Bob and I are willing to meet with you. There's no charge. There's no pressure. We will sit down with you. We will spend our time, which is not cheap, but we are doing it for free regardless, to help you figure out what the heck you should do. And to go over everything you've done to date and figure out maybe you need to reposition some things. Maybe you didn't realize that the zoning has changed on one of your properties, and now it's not just a single family home. Now it could be a 3 or 4 unit townhouse site, which the value now just increased significantly, and you had no clue.
So you're not taking advantage of the highest and best use. If
Exactly.
You didn't know.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so that's the stuff that we love doing. That's the stuff that I do for all my clients. And this is something that we are happy to do and want to do to help people get to the end, whatever that is, whatever their goal is, whatever their plan is, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Well, one of the things that I talked about with Bob was, listen, if I want to go out and buy real estate and invest in real estate, show me something. You're going to make a commission. I'm going to do with technology today and Redfin or what. I'm going to go online and I'm going to find homes and I'm going to buy a home and you're going to get me in with your MLS key. The degree of separation with you versus, I don't know how many real estate agents there are in the Seattle marketplace. Thousands, correct?
I think there's over 14,000 or something like that.
The big difference is you're all going to get paid. You're going to get a plan. You're going to get a strategy. You're going to get something that will pay you and make you money.
Exactly.
And get, like what Bob said in the first segment, the first show, his best advice to anybody starting out: get with somebody, hire a real estate professional that is doing this, that's done this, and that can advise you. It's huge, man. So
and it doesn't cost you any more than somebody that does it part-time.
An online agent or a part-time agent.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. So this is going to be a huge show. Obviously, Christian, I'm a huge fan of you, and I think what you're doing with clients and what you're doing in your personal life with investing in real estate is phenomenal, especially at your age and when you got started. So, I'm going to encourage all of our listeners. I would come. You're going to host a workshop. You and Bob were talking about that over break.
Well, yeah, we think we're going to. I honestly
you're going
don't
to.
know.
I'm going to make you guys do it because I want to be part of it. Seriously, man, I want to be a part. Huge.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if there's enough demand for it. I would assume that enough people are wanting to take the advice that we're willing to give them to set themselves up for essentially retirement. Which I don't know if that's a dirty word or not, but I don't really like that word.
I like the word freedom.
Yeah,
honestly, after
exactly.
talking with Bob last time, there's a lot of talk. I'm 40. There's a lot of talk in, I hire coaches and I have mentors. There's a lot of focus on being free.
Yep.
If something were to come up in Washington State and I needed to relocate to Arizona, can I do that?
Exactly.
Am I free enough to do that? So versus retirement, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's really what it
is.
is. Yeah, because I don't know. Personally, for me, I don't know if I ever really want to retire, meaning stop working. I like what I do.
Yeah, you love
it's
the grind,
fun.
the hustle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's where, and I learned this from Bob.
Yeah.
That's where it's more about freedom. If I want to go down to spring training for 2 weeks and watch the Mariners, and I can do that.
Or not show homes all day, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Which you got to do when you're working your butt off, but that's what you got to do at one point, and then eventually you don't have to.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to do some sort of class, and then from that class, what we'll do, if the attendees of that class are interested, we will meet with them one-on-one. And again, we're just doing this all for free. This is not. We're just giving this away.
Yeah.
And it's probably worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
I would assume, because I know me getting wrangling Bob to meet one-on-one isn't the easiest
Yeah.
thing, and he's my mentor. So he's a busy guy.
Yeah.
So doing this is definitely going to be of value to people.
Well, I know you won't say this, but I'm your mortgage guy. I see your financials. I helped you buy a house this last year and refinance a house. I know what you make. And it's not rocket science to take what you make annually and divide that out hourly. So I can tell you that Bob does a little bit better than you, I'm sure. So if you take those two guys and you put them in a room and you boil that down to what that workshop is worth from an hourly basis, it's worth a ton of money. I think we're gonna fill it up. You're gonna fill it up.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I want to throw out there too is we're not like we're not just trying to get you in there to sell you some sort of book or program or CD or anything.
Yeah. That's not how you work.
We don't have any anyways.
No.
We've never done that before.
Yeah.
This is the first time we're doing this.
Yeah.
This is all new. This is the first time.
Yeah.
It's new in regards to, I mean, we've done it for other clients
Yeah.
and friends. But it's new in terms of doing it on a bigger scale for a class or something like that.
Well,
So-
here's the thing.
So if people want to do it, I should tell them how to do it.
do
so
it.
they can either call me and tell me they're interested. My phone number is 206-949-3048. That's 206-949-3048. You can call or text me.
Yeah.
That's my personal cell number. Or you can email me at christian@awesomenossum.com. So that's AWESOMENOSSUM.com. Or you can just Google me, find my website. All my contact info's on there. You can also find it on SeattleRealEstateRadio.com. All my stuff's on there too. So just call me, text me, or email me. Tell me that you want the class, that you want to attend, that you would be interested, so that we can figure out if we're going to do this.
I'm going to text you right now. I'll be texting you.
I don't know if people are going to want this.
Yeah, I think they will. One of the things that in talking with Bob, right before we go to break, I want to touch on this. I was talking with him, and he was saying about when he meets with clients, his number one goal is to, and I wrote this down because this is huge, he wants to learn and hear their thoughts and their ideas. And what he said is most people don't. At the end of that conversation, he finds out that most people do not have a clear strategy, and they don't even have a clear goal set. They don't even know what they want. They think they know, but at the end of those 2 or 3 meetings, he comes to the conclusion that you're way out in left field. So, yeah, this is going to be good stuff. I'm excited for today's show.
Yeah, so am I. I think this is going to be another one of the good ones that are going to be timeless, honestly.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, stick around. Bob is going to come back in just a minute right after we go to break. So stick around to Seattle Real Estate Radio on KKOL 1300.
We're back with Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
All right, welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio. I hope you have your notepads handy, or if you're in the car, turn your phone on record.
Or just remember the website.
Just remember that you can go back and replay this, SeattleRealEstateRadio.com, because
we have the podcast as well as a video of us in the studio. Hello, people watching. And you can replay this anytime. Yeah,
this segment is going to be, well, we're going to piggyback on our last show with your mentor, Mr. Bob Wilson. Yeah, so I'm really excited for the next few minutes, man. Yeah. Why don't you take us away?
Yeah. So again, we have Bob Wilson here, owner of Wilson Realty Exchange, and he is an investing expert. I mean, he doesn't promote himself that way, but he is, and that's because he's done it.
Yeah.
And I know I help people as a real estate agent. I help them buy and sell real estate every day. But one of my big passions is helping people become investors and purchase properties so that they can get to their goal of freedom, like we were talking about. I mean, who doesn't want to have enough money coming in every month so that you don't have to work if you don't want to?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a goal everyone has. So last week we had Bob on, and we chatted a lot about this, and he let us in on some of the basics of real estate investing, and now we're going to kind of go into a little bit more specifics as well as Yeah, we're just going to go on more specifics.
Every client that comes in and applies for a mortgage in my office, I have them fill out a little worksheet. It's an overview. It's a mortgage planning worksheet is what I call it. And there's a question on there, are you interested in investing in real estate? And very rarely is the box checked no. So I know this is a hot topic.
Yeah.
And I know people want this information, but I know there's a lot of myths. I know there's a lot of misconceptions about what is real estate investing. Can you go, I think a lot of people found out in 2004 through 2008, that you don't just go out and buy a home with zero down and make a ton of money on that home. And 3-4 years later, you're a millionaire. It just doesn't work that way.
No.
So, one of the things that I wanted to follow up and ask Bob and you too, Christian, because you're obviously in the trenches. How should an investor be looking for property right now? Should they rely on, obviously, the internet, Redfin, apps on their phone? Well, basically, they all boil down to the MLS, the multiple listing service in the Northwest. How should somebody go about finding homes?
Well, Bob has taught me that you need to go off the grid. I mean, like you were kind of saying earlier, any old person can become a real estate agent. It's not hard to get your license. It's really not.
Yeah.
But who are you going to hire? Are you going to hire an expert or are you going to hire some part-time person or what? So anybody can look online and lots of people do and that works for them. Other people don't, or maybe they realize that they don't want to spend their time and their money and effort on that. And so they'd rather rely on a real estate agent to assist them. Now, I go a little step further than that. And this is something Bob has taught me and something that he has done. And that's kind of going off the grid and trying to locate properties that no one else knows about. And it's what I have learned over the years, my 11 years of working for him, with him. That's when he was in the business doing it every day. He spent 75% of your time probably prospecting, trying to find these deals, trying to dig through, wade through both properties that are on the market, on the MLS, but also tons of stuff that isn't, that people don't realize they might be willing to sell if the right thing popped up for them. So am I right, wrong? What am I?
You are correct. It was my passion. It was how I was going to get my independence. Yeah. And it was how I work. It's how I like to work. I don't do very well in the pig pile. To me, the MLS is the equivalent of the stockbrokers and what they've got in front of them.
Yep.
I want to work on the sides. I want to work on the fringes. I want to dig and claw and look for opportunities.
Wait, so what you guys are saying is this is hard work. It's not as easy. I can't just lay down on my couch at night with my iPad, find some homes, call up my hard money lender, or call up my mortgage guy and say, hey, I want to buy this home. I'm going to cash flow. It's not that easy, right? Dang. No, but what
did you really think? I mean, honestly,
no,
I mean,
people think
and that is what people
Yeah.
think, unfortunately. And it's a misconception that is out there, and it's something that they need to change because it's not real. It's not real life.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of times when I'm meeting with people, it's okay. Well, let me understand, and that's why it takes so many meetings.
Yeah.
I have to understand where they are, what they think, and then
what part of the grid you need to go off of.
Well, but also show them a mirror of what they're saying and go, okay, do you hear what you're saying? Is this real? Do you see this actually working for you?
Yeah.
And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then my goal is to
So what I'm hearing you say is the MLS is the equivalent to paying retail.
Yeah.
Getting off the grid is where you can go out there and you can get that quote-unquote deal or wholesale price on a property. So, okay, got it. I think you needed to make that point that it wasn't just that. And I keep hitting on that. It's not that easy.
No.
Bob didn't get to where he's at because of the internet.
Well, first off, it wasn't there. 1969 when he started, it wasn't there.
Al Gore started that in like the 80s, right?
Right. Yes. So one of the things, or one of the ways of being off the grid that I do, and that's something that, again, Bob taught me, and that's looking at and paying attention to the path of progress. Now, anybody can do this, and the obvious ones are, look at the job hubs, look at the transportation hubs. There's lots of others, and that's where some of the diamonds in the rough are. But that's kind of some of the stuff I'm not necessarily going to tell everybody on the radio. So it's, there's lots of different ways to find these hidden deals, hidden
I'll call them values.
Value.
I'm always in search of value.
That's big.
Yeah. And whether it's where you can add value to the property, whether it's you're getting a good deal on the buy, whether it's the land is worth more than the house that it's sitting on, or that the house is sitting on the land. There's so many different ways you can find value, and you have to be an expert to figure out what the hell those are.
Yeah. Well, and you have to be in the marketplace too. What I'm hearing you say too is a lot of these agents that are selling homes in Bremerton and Bellevue and in Seattle, they're all over. They're selling and listing homes all over. They're not a market expert. And they're leaning on but the good ones like you're leaning on resources in other market centers to pick up properties or to prospect. So I think something that I just picked up from you guys is that you're always prospecting. Always prospecting.
Yeah. And even though Bob doesn't have to anymore, he's still, maybe not 75% of his day, but he's still paying attention and repositioning himself with what he has and what he wants. And that's something I think we're going to talk about a lot in the next segment after the break, but we still got a few minutes right here.
Well, I want to ask you guys, what type of property makes the best investment, is a better investment? For example, multifamily, a townhome, a condo, a fixer, auction, all that stuff. Help me better, help our listeners better understand that.
Oh, good question, tough question, almost an unanswerable question, because it's such a different things work for different people.
Yeah.
What's a good deal in one person's mind doesn't fit the other person at all.
Yeah.
And I think it all depends on what your specific plan is.
Yeah.
So, Dan, you want to get to there. You want to get to freedom of not having to go to work every day if you don't want to. And what you're comfortable with and what you want to invest in is going to be completely different than the next person that I meet with later that day. Yeah. It's going to be completely different. So there's no one answer saying, hey, you have to buy condos in downtown Seattle that are new construction and they're all pre-sales. That's the investment. That's not true for everybody. And maybe it's true for somebody, but...
So essentially what you're saying is, okay, refer back to the game plan, refer back to the real estate investment planning meeting that you guys had, and look at that path of progress or path to progress. Look at those areas, and if there is a fourplex in that area, it may be a good investment. If there is a condo in that area that you were able to pick up off the grid, if you will, it may be a good investment. So I understand that a lot of these questions are vague in general. They're very vague.
But they're the questions that people ask us.
And that's the thing. There's no right answer. I hope at the end of this show we don't confuse any of our listeners, but it's not that cut and dry.
It just isn't. There's not a one system works for everybody. If it was, everybody would be wherever there is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I've heard of people doing this before. First-time home buyer, instead of buying, a nice house, they buy a duplex. Yeah. And they live in part of it, one of the units. Or they buy a triplex and they live in one of the units. Decent strategy, good strategy. Is it too vague? Are you going to give me
No. So this is actually exactly what I have done with myself. The first two properties I bought were both duplexes. Okay. And it's what I recommend to a lot of my clients if they're in the state of life where they can do that. Not everybody's at that stage where they're willing to and are open to having a wall that's shared with their tenant that they have to now manage. Yeah.
I tried running that by my wife a few years ago, and it just wasn't happening.
Exactly. Well, once you have kids, for a lot of people, that's the game changer that you don't want to do that anymore.
Okay.
But if you're single, if you're just a couple, if you're whatever you are in that kind of earlier stage in life, buying a duplex, and that's where essentially, so to give you what the definition of a duplex. Mm-hmm. A duplex in this area means it's one building, or maybe it's a house that has a detached separate apartment in the back, or a separate shed that's there. That's a duplex. So 2 units in one building or one lot, and you live in one, you rent out the other.
Got it. Quick question before we go to break. It's a quick answer, and this is a hot question. Do you base your rent estimates off of current rents, or do you project rents out into the future?
I base it off current, what's actually coming in, and then I'm smart enough to look at it and go, all right, well, I know that if I do X, Y, Z, I can get rents up to X amount.
Nice. Very nice.
So, kind of a both, kind of. All right, well, we got to take a break. Stay tuned for more of Bob Wilson here on Seattle Real Estate Radio.
Time for more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
Hello and welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio on KKOL 1300 AM. We're back and we're talking with real estate investing expert, my mentor, Bob Wilson, owner of Wilson Realty Exchange. And he's given you basically a master class on investing in real estate. I mean, that's really what this is. This is in the trenches. I did this.
Yeah.
If you follow what I did, or the same type of system that I did, you will probably be successful and be able to have that financial freedom that pretty much everybody talks about and wants. And I mean, that's a huge industry. It's totally off topic, but it's a huge industry where people spend a lot of money trying to learn. Yeah,
I love the transparency that it's not turnkey. It's not as simple as a lot of people think it might be or say it is. So
exactly.
It's great.
Exactly.
Great stuff. Well, we're talking, this segment specifically is on repositioning. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I read the outline for today, I'm like, I'm going to be talking about this, but I have no idea what repositioning is. So, Bob, what is repositioning?
Yeah, good question, Dan. It really, what it boils down to in my mind is that as we go along collecting real estate, some of it works, some of it changes, some of it doesn't work anymore, some of it no longer serves the purpose which we originally bought it. Mm-hmm. And so the zoning changes, there's just lots of things happening. And so I try to look at my clients and say, look through their, I'll call it my Montana way of thinking, is culling out the chicken coop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because what happens is chicken did lay eggs, doesn't lay eggs anymore. Mm-hmm. He's kind of gimping around there, and the other chickens are picking on him. So you cull out the chicken coop. And so that's what happens with our real estate. And what happens lots of times, Dan, is that as we go along in life, just like we look in our clothes closet and we're never going to wear that shirt or pair of pants again. Mm-hmm. But, 4 or 5 years later, it's still sitting there. We haven't worn it.
Yeah.
And so that's the way our real estate is. Mm-hmm. It's underperforming, doesn't do what we want it to do, and our life got a little older, a little longer, or a little shorter, and then we think differently about what we want to do and turning things to cash flow and safety. Mm-hmm. And so that's some of the ways I look at this.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that become accidental investors, as I kind of like to call them. And those are people that, I kind of touched on it earlier, and those are people that basically, they bought something in the past that maybe they didn't mean to be an investor, but when the market tanked, they held on to it because they couldn't sell it. It wasn't worth what they paid for it. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to do a short sale or give it back to the bank. So they held on to it, and now that prices are finally back to those levels or close to those levels, now they can finally get rid of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people really realize that they can now. For pretty much anybody that's in the listening range of this station, values are back. You can pretty much get rid of something that maybe wasn't worth it before.
So let me ask you guys this, and being very transparent, I'm going to give you a scenario that I personally am in right now. Let's use myself as a case study. So the house that my wife and I raised our kids in, we had both of our kids there. We purchased in 2004, and I guess you could consider that pretty close to the height of the market. Overpaid for a home, but first-time buyers. We've held on to that house. Yep. We couldn't sell it in 2012, 2013 when we built our home that we live in now. The great thing is through the years we've been able to refinance it, and we are not losing money on the home. Yep. But I'll tell you, the mortgage payment on it is about $1,900 a month, and we rent it for $2,200. Well, $2,150. Is that a home that I should consider repositioning?
Well,
and we have very, very, again, we could sell it and probably walk away without having to write a check, but we're not going to sell it and put a bunch of money in our pocket.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that case study, with that scenario, is it something that we hang on to, only making a couple $100s a month on it? Or what are your thoughts there, guys?
Well, I would say you're probably not making a couple $100 on it, even though you think you are, because what are your expenses on that? I mean, when's the last time you had to put a roof on it?
That's the thing. It's
Exactly.
04, and we're 2016, so
when's
it was built, new construction in 04.
So when was the water heater done?
Just had to replace that last year.
And how much was that?
Yeah, $750 or something.
So how many months
Yeah.
of your positive cash flow did that take up? So you add in all these expenses, and
Okay. What are your thoughts, Bob?
Well, Dan, it's a big question, and I'd have to know where Dan wants to be in 10 years. Will it fit? Does it fit as one of the pieces you need in going ahead? And what other pieces do you want to add?
Well, I would hope if I had an investment home, it was making me more than a couple $100s a month. So,
I poo-pooed on your $200 a month or whatever it was, and
but it's real. That's the reality of it.
It's the reality of it, but it's also, for a lot of people getting into the game, that's what you can actually get sometimes. That's all you can afford to get sometimes. And so if that's the case, then go for it, because you do some things to it, you add some value to it, you pay it down. Eventually, after 30 years or 15 years or however long your mortgage is going to be, it's going to be paid off. So at that point, depending on what your big goal is, maybe it does make sense. So,
again, Dan, you just have to kind of ask yourself, where do I want to be 10 years from now? Does it fit in the retirement plan? Does it fit in the kids' education plan? Does it fit in my plan going forward? But it's a place where you draw a line, and then you draw another line out there, or a goal, objective. Where do you want to be? Does it work?
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, make it go away.
Yeah.
Clean out the chicken coop.
Yeah. Well, I think that falls into where a lot of people are right now, and what you said, they're accidental. What'd you call them? Accidental investors. Yeah. I mean, I call myself, I do tell my clients that I own multiple homes. I have, but I'm not a real estate investor. Yes, I own homes, and it's an investment, but that's accidental.
Yep.
I mean, I couldn't sell it when we bought. I would have liked to. So it's an accident. So I have a feeling there's a lot of people.
But there's a lot of people in that boat. And some of them, in addition to that home, again, maybe when before you met Jenny and you guys got married, maybe you both individually owned something, and you sold one of them or kept one of them and moved in together with the other one, and you got some other thing, and maybe you got a piece of land in Chelan or something on the waterfront or ocean shores, or you got somewhere, vacation homes, you got a bunch of stuff. Maybe they don't make sense like they used to. where they could make a lot more sense now if you did reposition it.
Yeah.
So Bob, I know that you are repositioning things constantly, and I know right now you have some things going on. What can you give me some examples so that we can kind of explain what this is in real life terms of things that you've done or are doing?
Well, Christian, what I'm constantly working on is reviewing and relooking and maximizing value. Mm-hmm. Upgrading, adding bedrooms, adding bathrooms. We've got this huge thing coming down in Seattle with these Seattle inspections. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing.
The
people with
the
rental inspections. Mm-hmm. And that's something a lot of people have to deal with and have to be concerned about. Yep. Because even if you can afford the work, you can't get the labor to do it. It's difficult out there. Yeah. Labor is tight. People to work on these properties is very not easy.
Everyone's slammed.
Right. And that's why there's so many people in the freeway. There's jobs. Mm-hmm. But from my standpoint, what I'm always looking is trading, selling, moving. One deal I just finished in Fremont was tore down a one-bedroom house and built 16 units.
Yeah, I'm sure that
we just finished that less than 3 months ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm
sure that by repositioning that probably helped your cash flow just a little bit. And that's the kind of stuff that you're looking at doing when we're talking about repositioning. It's taking something you have and turning it into something that fits your plan, whether it's redoing a property that you already own or trading that into something else.
Or repositioning cash into real estate.
That's true, too. It's a good point.
Mm-hmm. See, it's always repositioning, always looking.
Or taking stocks and putting that into real estate or whatever it is you have.
Yeah. It depends on where your pucker factor lies, too.
So I know a lot of listeners are examples are great. I think that's where we can relate, and we can give them real-time examples. So that example of that one-bedroom teardown that you turned into how many unit? Was it
We built 16 new apartment units.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I have to assume that costs money. And for an investor or somebody that wants to invest that doesn't have a bunch of money in the bank, did that require a ton of money out of pocket up front, or could somebody do something similar to that with financing, hard money?
Well, Dan, the banks are very, very cautious now. I'd owned this property for 35 or so years.
Got it.
In fact, when I purchased it, it was redlined. You couldn't get financing in Fremont.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's fun hearing some of this history stuff.
Well, it really is, and that's how much things can change.
Yep.
And things change so fast between that piece of property and the one I have right next door. Mm-hmm. The zoning changed in this process of me building these last two.
Yeah, so to back up, Bob built the 16-unit on the single-family house that he had. Next door, he has a 4-unit that he's owned that he bought at the same time. And he was going to do another 16-unit on that lot. And the city said, nope, we're changing the zoning. You can't do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we got to take a break. We're going to be back with Bob, and we're going to learn more about 1031 and repositioning as well.
Yeah, let's just talk about repositioning. So stick around, Seattle Real Estate Radio.
We're back with Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
All right, we are back to Seattle Real Estate Radio. Thank you very much for listening. I'm sure you've learned a ton of good stuff today. Yeah. I mean, Bob is a... I want to write a book on him one day, and I told him that yesterday, but I do. I want to write a book about him, and so this is probably going to be kind of the baseline of getting some of the information out of his head and onto something that's recorded.
Yeah,
we do record all these.
Yeah. Well, you can write a book on him and how he changed your life and helped you when you're nearing that end goal.
Exactly.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
Exactly.
You know,
Anyways.
hey, we were talking before break about repositioning, okay? And a question that I get asked often in the finance arena is 1031 exchanges get brought up. Bob, you want to talk on 1031 and how that relates to repositioning, if it does at all,
And what that is.
and is it a big factor, and what it is? What is a 1031?
The 1031, Dan, is the government section of a code that allows you to exchange investment properties held for investment. It goes on and on a little further than this, but essentially for other investments. And there's lots of qualifications that have to be met. But it is a good tool and can be used for repositioning. But essentially, it's a trade, which is just a regular trade, which is non-1031, is a huge factor in repositioning. Using definancing is a huge tool in repositioning.
So explain what that is.
Well, see, what kills cash flow is a mortgage. Expenses we're going to have whether we have the mortgage or not.
Exactly. Yep.
But if we can somehow juggle things around to make that mortgage go away, which we can do
So
in a lot of cases, and then what we want to do is constantly upgrade and improve people's positions. My position, I'm constantly working on them. Other people's positions, right? Where we take where they are and improve. We'd always like to get from here all the way to there in one fell swoop, but it's a process.
Yeah, there's lots of
going
steps
on,
that go on to going from here to there.
And so we use lots of different ways of thinking and doing and looking and re-looking because you can have lots of equity and no cash flow, or you could have lots of equity and a negative cash flow. But you can't have cash flow and no equity. So we're just constantly working and re-looking and retooling to improve people's positions.
Yep.
I do it for myself.
That's what we do.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into this. This is more than just 101, real estate investing 101. This is obviously when you have a portfolio and when you have properties and you're constantly evaluating those and repositioning. So,
And a lot of times people don't realize that they should be repositioning themselves.
Yeah.
And honestly, most people probably should. At least something. There's probably something you could be doing better that you're not doing right now.
Yeah. So 3 aspects of repositioning: 1, trade; 1, definancing, which is a kind of a subcategory, I guess, of trade; and then the third would be 1031 exchange.
Which is kind of the same as a trade.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. You're going to have questions on these. If you own homes, this is a great time to have a conversation with Christian. Hit Christian up and come in for, you call them real estate reviews, investment reviews. Come in and sit down. He'll take a look at everything and give you his advice. And again, those free. They don't charge. You don't charge for those.
I'll even buy you a cup of coffee.
Wow.
I'm a good guy like that.
You are. You are. Well, we're gonna try and wrap up this segment here in a few minutes. But Christian, what else do we've got Bob for about another 5 or 6 minutes. Let's take advantage of it.
So one of my favorite stories, Bob, of you is how you bought a place once by writing an offer on a 2x4. I'm pulling this one out of the clouds.
I love it.
Surprising you with it. Tell me about that one. How did that happen? Do you even remember that?
It had to be in Montana.
No.
Not in Seattle.
Well, I do that.
I know. It's awesome. It's so cool.
Well, look if somebody wants to do something, let's just do it.
Exactly.
Let's find a way. We don't have to have all these big fat forms. All we have to do is write our ideas, what we will do. What will we do?
Yeah.
Just write it down.
Yep. I'll buy this from you for this much money.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Bob doesn't finance homes, because if he had to actually go through the financing process and see the forms, the big fat forms and the acronyms.
He does.
Oh,
he finances
I bet it
them
kills
all the
you.
time. But, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's funny. There's stories like that.
So an offer on a 2x4.
Yeah.
Well,
it's what was there. And that's only because he didn't have a napkin.
And he burned it. He burned it with a magnifying glass. He didn't have a pen.
no.
No?
Yeah.
I just do it now.
Yeah.
If you have an idea, see if it works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's something that I'm still learning all the time. And that's what I'm always trying to remind myself. And that's just do something. Do something. Take a step, even if it's a tiny one. Just move in the right direction, but you got to know what your direction is first.
Yeah.
So, again, it's where like he's done his whole entire life.
Yeah.
Figure out where you want to be, work backwards.
Yeah.
Take some steps towards it once you figure out that plan. But first is you got to figure out what that plan is.
And constantly evaluate it. So I'm going to put you on the hot seat, Christian. Christian, how old are you for our listeners?
I think I'm 33.
33. 33 years old.
My wife is shaking her head, yes.
33. Okay,
I never
confirmed.
remember.
Confirmed.
I feel like I'm 73 sometimes. But...
Well, you don't look 73. So 33 years old, successful real estate investor. You're on the path.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got Bob sitting here with me. Let's talk two parts. What is your plan right now? And Bob, for our listeners, putting Christian on the hot seat,
Thanks,
advice
guys.
for him. So let's talk about your plan real quick.
So my plan is essentially to own. I would love to have another property in the U District, much like the one that I already have, where I rent it out to college kids that they are not horrible tenants. They're actually amazing tenants. And that's the type of house that I would like, because that's just what I like. It's what I know right now, and that's kind of my game plan.
Okay. Bob, putting you on the hot seat with Christian. You have any advice for Christian?
Then what, Christian? Like, so what? What are we going to do after that one and after that one?
Pay him off.
Well, okay.
Yeah, but how do you do that? Exactly. Well, so it just goes on and on and on. And that's how this works. And that's why this relationship between the mentor and mentee, if that's the right term, I think it is.
Student, mentor, student, whatever.
There you go.
Yeah.
How that works. It's always, okay, well, what's your goal? Okay, cool. You took a step. Congratulations. Now what? And let's figure out what that now what is. And that's how it works. I mean, is that...
Well, first of all, Christian, doing anything, you deserve a huge congratulations.
Exactly.
Anybody.
Yeah.
And even if they did it wrong, you did something.
There you go.
One thing my beloved passed away mother taught us, do something. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake, back up, figure it out, and do it again, or do it in a different way. So not doing anything is the huge mistake.
Yeah.
But if you can get with somebody that can kind of nudge you in the right direction, boy, it can save a lot of heartburn.
So you're setting me up perfectly for throwing this offer back out there, which we talked about earlier. And that is, if you sitting there at home or at work or in your car or whatever, if you are at a position where you... Dan's pointing at me and saying stuff to the camera.
Man, I'm a fan. I'm coming.
Right.
I'm signing up.
So
go get it.
So we think we might potentially, big maybe, do a class, Bob and I, and kind of educate people on this process. And if you are one of the people that might be interested in something like this, you need to tell me so I know how many people are interested.
Yep.
So call me, text me, email me, whatever you want to do.
SeattleRealEstateRadio.com. You can message us.
All my contact info's on there. Reach out and let me know. So thank you, everybody. Bob, humongous thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
For everything today and last week. You were amazing. I love you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
To contact the show or for more information, visit SeattleRealEstateRadio.com. That's SeattleRealEstateRadio.com. And be sure to tune in again next Monday at 3 for more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller, mortgage expert with New American Funding, right here on Business Radio 1300 KKOL. Program is sponsored by Awesome Nossum Real